빛을 내는 계신을 따라가.
The overlap between fiction and real-life personal experience in BXBY comes from my frustrations in the limitations of the English language, how it is led heavily by categorizations, and how those categorizations have shaped the way we process information, visual, sonic, textual, or otherwise. On a personal level, I'm using the mode of fiction to my advantage. It's sometimes used as protection, it's used as a mirror, it's used to acknowledge signs of trauma and then go beyond it with playfulness. On a social and industrial level, blurring fiction with reality allows me to reassemble ethics so that we may sit with our feelings and bodily sensations on issues that may be triggering or activating. So the narrative arc of BXBY did develop quite organically. It starts on a cliff in first-person perspective. They fall in. Once submerged, the sea gods can be heard. They accept the body as sacrifice and return the body as a seal god to shore. The sea gods advise to follow another god, a dog god, and mate until hybridity is the norm.
In the colony lab that we give birth and finally die in, what of our sacrifice and vanishing will remain in the longings of our hybrid seal spawns?
Then it cuts to Glasgow in a tenement flat to a hybrid seal spawn who wants to learn to reproduce so that she may find family, belonging. Learning the modes of reproduction are therefore a sensorial confrontation and processing of colonial trauma that birthed her.
I did my best to forget.
It is, of course, a direct acknowledgement of enslaved gestational labor, women who were forced surrogates or used in experimentation for the benefit of modern gynecology. The two specific contexts I'm speaking from personally as a Korean person born in America are enslaved Black women used in experiments without anesthesia in the antebellum South, and enslaved Korean women used for sexual and gestational purposes during Japanese occupation of Korea. For me, ritual is simply a set of processes. In the film, the set of processes that the hybrid is performing are from science, they're medical processes. They're also ancient in terms of human reproduction. So I became quite obsessed with the scientific process at some points, especially towards the beginning and getting this process right. But my intention was never to actually produce a hybrid human-animal creature like some bioartists want to do very literally. It sounds a bit bizarre, but it's like my project of reproduction was doomed to fail from the start. I was struck by how incredible and amazing the technological advances are of assisting reproductive technology through methods such as IVF or ICSI. However, I was very struck by how, and I don't think it's the science's fault, assisted reproductive technologies are promoted to facilitate a certain kind of human life, mostly by heterosexual cis couples who experience infertility, and these technologies are mostly offered to people like them. So it's technology that is allowing a very standard kind of way of family making to go on. There's many barriers for people who don't fit that mold to access this technology. And again, I don't blame the technology in any way. It's the way that it's socialized. The work is for those who empathize with the hybrid character, who doesn't belong yet desires kinship, desires touch yet has experienced or inherited violence, was assigned a certain gender but is ambivalent or in conflict with their reproductive organs, those whose bodies both attacks and saves them. The work is for those people to experience collective acknowledgement, to release and to build solidarity. BXBY is made with a number of close collaborators. Jado Bell plays a god that comes and facilitates the spawning after the hybrid falls in the Highlands. Her costume, her research draws directly from Yamoja, who is the river god in Yoruba culture. She takes the hybrid on board and performs a ritual of spawning. This was important to us. I think it came from our feelings that we were having about interdependence and about nurturing, about caring, possibly about mothering too, about how it's not this endless supply that the static figure produces forever. It's actually so exhausting, and it requires breaks. It requires receiving nurturing back. My other collaborator, Chulai Mek, who finishes the piece in the elephant mask. Again, with Chulai, as it is with Jade, it was important that I wasn't asking them to make something for the work specifically, like not to play a character, but to be a meeting ground. And Kasamin is the person who made the music and sounds for BXBY. If you've watched it, you know that it's the music plays a really big role. It was so important to have our friendship be a part of the work, which was imagining family or kinship beyond, bloodline, beyond biological reproduction. And so I think that's weaved into the work.